Welcome to the Scottish Property Podcast. This is a show where we aim to educate, inspire and entertain through real life stories and interviews from people in the Scottish property community.
As always, thanks for listening and give us a follow on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember to join us at our monthly networking events on the first Wednesday of every month. Tickets are available on our website. So without further ado, we'll just cut straight into this week's podcast.
Welcome to the Scottish Property Podcast. Nicholas Ponty, it's just me and you today.
What the hell? Well, you're back from your hairy bikers trip, mate.
Bikers trip, mate.
Did you have a good time? You're going through a bit of a midlife crisis at the moment. Hitting 40.
I've got a tan.
Yes, tell us all about it.
Oh, it was great. Fantastic trip. It was brilliant. Something me and my mate discussed for a few years. Sorry, listeners, just to give you a little bit of update. Myself and Nick are doing a little bit of a catch-up episode where we'll talk about what's going on in our lives and our businesses. Yeah. And mine's been a lot less business and a bit more life recently, which has been a nice change. So yeah.
See, when I seen you jumping out of a plane with a big guy strapped to your back, I thought, oh my God, I could not do that. Well, it's not that I don't mind the big guy strapped to my back.
Well, I was about to say, I do jiu-jitsu, so I've always got somebody on my back or somebody, a male in close proximity to me, so that wasn't bothering me as much. But I jumped into the plane, it was a bit more, it was good. It was such a surreal experience. So we went for 2 weeks. It's something me and my mate had discussed for a couple of years. Like, when we turned 40, let's do a cool trip. We just do a bit of a road trip. And it started off with the romanticness of let's do Route 66, it'll be cool to travel. And then when we looked into it more and more on the distance you would travel, we thought we're going to get more value by doing this specific highway. So we thought we'd do that in bikes, hire Harleys, do the West Coast from LA to San Francisco, done a wee bit more north as well on the first week, and then the second week we hired a muscle car, a Dodge Challenger, and then hit the roads, went to Vegas for a few days, done the skydive.
You get stuck in Vegas for a few more days.
Stuck in a few days. I don't know, it was quite funny because my mate hadn't drunk for about 18 months and he was a bit of a liability with a drink anyway, so it wasn't a bad thing he wasn't drinking. But we went to the Raiders game on the first night we got to Vegas. The next morning we went and done a skydive. And we were so buzzing from the skydive, like it was such a surreal experience that we were just like, fuck, let's go and have a couple of drinks and we'll go wandering about and I'll show him some of the sights in Vegas because he hadn't been before. So we got, the big slushies you get on the Fat Tuesdays, like they're fucking filled with alcohol. So we got them and the two of us are walking about the streets like just fucking drinking these things. And but before we went for something to eat, we crossed over and go into Planet Hollywood, and as he was going for a piss, I just put in $50 into one of the machines, one of the slot machines, and I didn't, it comes up with like your credits or a dollar amount. Well, it was coming up with credits. I didn't know what it was. I just fucking hit the button, and it pretty much wiped out my whole $50. But then it started ringing in like a feature. So by the time he came out of the toilet, it's fucking ringing in all this money, but it's coming up on credits. And he's like, "How much you want?" And I fucking don't know. I just put in $50 and hit the button. And by the time it came in, running in $2,000.
$2,000?
So I got a win in Vegas. And then,
nice.
So I thought, right, the fucking cash is going to come out. Let's just go and cash it in. No, because it was over a certain amount, the attendant had to come over. Then she's like, all right, I'll just take that away for you and I'll come back. And she was away for fucking ages. So I'm sitting there like, just looking at this $2,000 on the screen going, yep, here we go. We'll have my night out in Vegas tonight then. And
how did that night end up then?
Well, she came back and she goes like, there's your cash and there's my slip for an IRS slip. And they took 30% tax off it. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, we don't pay tax in the UK on gambling.
Is that not just a tip for coming over and hand you the
standard day? Like I was like, fuck. So I ended up messaging my accountant, fucking steaming drunk in Vegas, and how did I claim back the $600 of tax? He was like, it cost you the same amount to try and put through the forms to claim it. Just take it on the chin.
It looks like an experience. When's Kelly getting her 2-week holiday then?
When she's 40. Yeah, she's got a couple of years to go. But I'm trying to go on that one, and she's saying, what? Doesn't work like that. You get to go on your one. Aye, it was.
We had a few people saying, "How's that work then? Like, how's he get to go away for 2 weeks round?"
Oh, it was class.
California motorbike, but it looked brilliant, mate.
It was such
good to see you back with tan as well.
Do you know what? It was nice as well. Nice for the business because it's probably the first time in a long, long time that I've actually went on holiday and switched off. Like, I took my laptop with me, I didn't open it once. I'd done some messages and emails on my phone, once a day, just checked on them and just made sure there was nothing urgent, but I didn't work, which I think was a bit of a pivotal point as well. And I think we were just chatting about that before we got started, and we'll talk about the kind of concept of our businesses and how we're growing. And I think that does come a lot to the team and the staff and the people you've got around you.
Absolutely. So let's start with yourself then. Where do you feel that you're at and how things going? Well, you've got a couple of things on the go, but obviously talking about the properties, a few changes in your property portfolio.
Yeah, big time. We assessed the portfolio, like the collective portfolio, looked at it with a bigger picture. The biggest overheads that we could see was management, lending, first and foremost. And then it was
Interest
management.
rates,
Management and maintenance. And there's nothing we could do about the lending unless we had a good few £1 million kicking about cash to just pay it off. So, which we don't, unfortunately. So it was like, well, the only things we can control is the maintenance and the management. So we've been trying hard the last few months to bring that under control. Maintenance first and foremost. And we tried to hire full-time employees rather than using subcontractors. And looking at the numbers, it's definitely the way forward at the scale we've got, but see, trying to find the right fit.
So did I not see you hiring like a painter or something like that?
I had a painter.
The painting was obviously the main, was that the main trade, and then were you wanting the painter to do some other bits?
Yeah, so the main bottom was going to be like, painting a portfolio. You know it yourself, the amount of properties you've got in your portfolio, you need a painter full time just to go into all these properties if they own by the same person, obviously. And we're like, this is like painting the Forth Road Bridge. By the time we've painted one or two, and the time one's moved out, that one needs a tar up, that one's had a roof leak. There's always something needing painting. So we thought the painting is the main focal point, but we really could do with the handyman. It'll build the furniture, put that shelf up, fix that door handle, and that kind of stuff. So when we failed with the painter, we tried for a handyman approach, but the handyman that could paint. And then against all my better judgment, like there's so many red flags in the interview with this guy, but see, because he was older, I thought, you know what, I'm going to beat ageism here. I'm going to go for the older employee because he'll be fucking reliable. Because that's my big pain point with the first couple of attempts. So we went for the older guy, and fuck me, he lasted like 4 days. Like I think it was day 3. I've got a migraine.
Excuse.
Day 4, my car's broke down. I'm like, fuck me, I gave you the chance. Like. Thinking you're going to be reliable, you're going to be the one that'll do it.
And you're not paying peanuts here, you're paying a decent rate.
Paying a decent salary. Like paying a decent full-time salary, like job security, like pension contributions, the whole fucking lot. You're going on the books, but I couldn't attract it.
Overalls included?
Well, a van included now as well, a brand new van.
Oh, that's right, you picked up a van just recently.
A van.
So where's the van heading?
Up to Aberdeen.
Right.
So I think there's probably a couple of 2 or 3 issues. One was, I think they knew quite quickly that we weren't based in Aberdeen full time, so they can almost do what the fuck they wanted to.
Take the piss, right.
Aye. So we've got an office up in Aberdeen to run it from.
Is there somebody going to be based in there all the time, or is that just
probably a bit of our base going back and forth between me, portfolio manager, and if we've got anybody up in Aberdeen doing like viewing agents and stuff.
Remember,
like that.
You used to be always up in Aberdeen,
but
you're not up there that much anymore.
I'm trying to not be as much. I usually go maybe once every 2 weeks now. And do I'm trying to do an overnight and just trying to cram in like a couple of days worth of work and catch ups. And
obviously for those people who are listening, Stephen's got a significant portfolio. Still no managed to tell me his number because obviously it's always changing, but it must be over 100 or something.
But around about that point,
about 100.
Sold a few.
So up in Aberdeen where he invests, so that's why we're talking about taking on local team there, trying to consolidate it from there. We're all in that city, in that area, so it makes sense to try and build a team around that. That's a challenge, especially if you're not there on the grounds. Try to, especially when
it was difficult conversations as well, because as I've built the Aberdeen portfolio over the last 5 years, that's been building relationships up with agents, like good agents, like good people that I've worked with. So these were difficult conversations to say, look, God forbid ever noticed to pull these in-house, but it was ultimately it was a business decision. I think the final straw was the interest rates. Like we came off the bridge for the last portfolio purchase, 39 properties bought last year, and when we appraised them, interest rates just started to rise. So we were like, we didn't quite put them on 3.5%. I think we put them at 4.5. But by the time we exited the bridging loan, we were paying 5% arrangement fees, and most of the mortgages at the time just to get off the bridge. I mean, I knew it would have settled itself out and you could have waited, but we're on a bridging loan fucking for a few £1 million. We couldn't just wait that out. So we just had to take what was given to us, and a lot of the mortgages we've just fixed for the 5 years of the park it and forget are 7%. So they've went from 2.7, 3.2 up to 7%. So that's been a significant increase cost in the portfolio, and the only other way that you could pull that back in is through the maintenance and the management. And we're unfortunately a lot of money paying letting agents out in Aberdeen. So
and this is why I love it. I mean, you overshare probably. You share too much, but listeners will appreciate that, and they'll see you for an honest guy because you share everything. And me and you still buy into residential property, long-term wealth builder, 100%. but we will face these challenges. And there's challenging times.
Yeah, it's interesting now as well, because like I think if you look back at what you want when you first start out in property, especially maybe the guys that are buying one or two, they might think, oh, looking at 100, looking at bigger numbers. I think maybe looking back at what you want to do, it would have been a good point, because there's got to be a point where it makes sense just to have a portfolio and hand it to a management agency and go, there you go. It's as hands off as it can be, because Nick Ponty looks after my portfolio. He's got the full autonomy to make decisions, do the maintenance, select the tenants. I do nothing. I've invested, I've bought it, I've parked it there. But at some point, that scale and that scale,
economies of scale,
yeah, it just works out that you're like, fuck, look at the thousands upon thousands of pounds that you're paying out.
Basically, you could probably employ somebody full time to look after that, plus have quite a bit surplus extra left over.
We can pay a full-time handyman, probably a full-time painter and a full-time lettings, and have a little bit left over for what we're paying out in Aberdeen management. But there's a couple of things as well that was the decider point. It wasn't just the financials from it. See, if you've got we've got maybe 50 properties with one letting agency, 50 properties with another letting agency, but the other letting agency's got 800 and one's got 900, say. We're a big landlord for that agents, but to them and the owners, like, we're going to get treated well because we're one of the big owners, because the business owners know that. But to the members of staff, we're just fucking landlord Stephen that's got that property in there. Yeah. So what I found as well, it was like that. It was the culture. We're one off loads and loads of landlords and loads of properties that they've got. Whereas I looked at it from the cost point of view, going, well, we can pull in the maintenance, and we can have a full-time maintenance, full-time letting agent, full-time members of staff that pays for it, what we're paying out here. But what I'm more excited about is bringing the voids down to fucking zero. Because when you start looking at the performance of a portfolio and you look, oh, that one sat empty for 6 weeks while I went through the checks to the next tenants. And don't get me wrong, Aberdeen's a different city compared to other cities in the UK, and it may be difficult, but it's not inbred in their culture. Whereas if it's our portfolio, it's inbred in our portfolio culture, and they go, no, we're wanting zero voids or 1 day voids, because that's perfect performance.
I get it. And you believe that by taking that control and getting the right team process in place, you can obviously control things better and have lower voids.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case. Because I mean,
I'll jump to, because obviously I'm a letting agent, right? So I'm going to jump to letting agent's defence here, right. And I'm going to say that I hope it works out for you, but I know that it takes a lot to get. You might be really lucky, and you might get a really good team member running your, managing your portfolio, but it's a lot of work, and it's a lot. Lettings is there's so many rabbit holes and so many things.
I've never been more nervous about anything in property than doing this. Like, this is a thing I really don't want to do. It doesn't. Right. If you look at it from when you start in property, what's your end in mind and what good job do you want? I do not want to be running a letting agent. I don't want to be running my portfolio in house. Like, it's something that doesn't appeal to me in the slightest.
I guess you got Sam for that though, so you can tap all that off to him.
Yeah, you'd like to think so.
He was a letting agent.
Well, I got so I actually did a lot of the stuff with the standard operating procedures from a lot of the stuff that he'd got and the information and the forms and sheets he's got, but I'd used something that we've used through the team in the podcast, Filipino VA, to come up with like a standard operating procedure. But I actually enjoyed going through the process of going right, because I'm looking at it from a complete the opposite end of the fence from a letting agent, and I'm like, okay, I want the property on the market here. What's the process I can do to mitigate the voids? So I was creating processes inside our one that's probably less onerous than a letting agent has to go, because a letting agent has to, here's your repair bill, contact the landlord. But we're the fucking landlord, so just go ahead. So get the quote, go ahead. Get the quote, go ahead. So that you're taking out a chunk of the process. Yeah. And then there was things like with the PRT, they're given a 28 days notice. So I'm putting into it, well, at day 14, our full-time maintenance guy goes in and does an inspection to figure out what maintenance is required, so he can plan that in and tell the portfolio manager, well, see on the first one that person moves out, I just need to paint that and fix that bit of floor, and how long it'll take you? 4 hours. Okay, the tenant can go in the next day or that same day, or shit, the kitchen's even done, it's going to take 2 weeks, give me a 2 week void. So we can have more handles in it. Whereas what I was finding with letting agents is person would move out, they do their check-up and then inventory. Then once that's processed, a few days later, they'll be like, oh yeah, you know what, that needs painted and that needs fixed and that's been done. And it's like, okay, we'll get quotes. Then they get quotes. And then a week later or 2 weeks later, they're getting. So you're seeing this process just getting dragged out. Like, this is taking too long. And I'm looking at going, if I can if I can systemize that and mitigate those void periods, that makes a huge difference to the business. So I'm quite finding that quite fascinating by putting up with business processes. Systems.
The processes I love as well, and I'm a huge fan. I don't know if you use it, but it's a thing called Loom Video, right? So it's a tip there for you and the listeners. If you're having to record a process, something that you do day in, day out, and you want to outsource that to a VA, then get on Loom Video. Just basically a screen recording, and you can talk while you're doing the process, and it records your screen. Just creates a short video, send it to your VA, and then that's it's recorded. Like any questions are covered in that recording.
That's good.
So I've been using that a lot in my business. Anytime a question comes up from a member of staff, I'll just jump on Loom, record a Loom, and then send it out to all the staff so that they know. Or if something needs to be tweaked, if something's not working, then I'll just do that and say, this is an update of how you reference a tenant. This is what we're doing now.
That's
and
interesting.
It's just a communication thing as well. Everybody sees it.
Do you know, I'm finding like a lot of this stuff quite interesting. Like thinking about it from all sides of it now, because now I'm thinking about it from almost a letting agent's point of view. We're almost copying like, or here's a standard operating procedure for a letting agent, and you look at like the referencing checks, and you know I'm looking at it. Just say you've got a process you're taking on. Here's what we're going to do to reference each property or each tenant. I'm going to look at landlord references, but then I'm thinking back to me as a landlord where I've had a fucking horrible shitty tenant. And they're saying, well, I'm not getting a council house unless you give me a good reference. And then I'm going, well, I want rid of you. So arm up my back. I'm going to say to the council, she's a fantastic tenant. Amazing. Kept the place in a minute to lie to get them out of my property. So I'm thinking, have they been a nightmare tenant with the previous landlord, they're just trying to get rid of them by giving them a good reference. So it's like looking at it from this other point of view going, right, how do we tweak that process to get the better tenant? And what weight do we put on each part of that application process? Yeah,
you know what's going to happen. Roll on 5 years, and you will become a letting agency owner, mate. This is what's going to happen.
No way. we can sound clip that, mate, and do that, because that was mentioned. So we were telling something in the call the other night, and they're like, "Oh, so would you just manage other properties?" I was like, "Absolutely fucking not. No danger."
But if somebody else is doing all the work, it's a good. Did I tell you that time that I listened to a Rob Moore podcast that he did? And Rob Moore, obviously progressive property, he's been about everything for years. And he was interviewed, I can't remember who was interviewing him. I think it was like that James Sinclair that I listened to. And you know that James Sinclair, he's like very direct with the questions, and basically said to him, out of all your companies, because he's got like massive property trading, training business, you know, the courses that he does and all that, and then he's got the developments that he does, so like Mark Homer, and then he's got just a lettings agency around Peterborough as well. I think they manage like 800 properties or something like that.
Their own plus more.
What's that?
Is it their own plus more?
Their own portfolio and others. And obviously he's got somebody that runs that letting agency for him. But he was asked the question, what's your best business out of all the businesses that you've got? And he said the lettings agency says it makes the most profit margin.
That's interesting.
So I was like, when I heard that, I was like, fuck, all this hard work that I'm doing is eventually going to fucking pay off.
You've been putting in graph for years on the letting agency. What stage are you at now?
I know, mate. I feel like it's never ending.
You're growing the team now as well, aren't you?
Aye. So, geez, I mean, like properly we get started in lettings, I would say 2018. So that's like 6 years on, right? Mate, it's not been easy. It's been a long road.
Long slog.
And, you know, I'm still at the early stages, you know. I mean, you look at other brands, other letting agency brands and stuff like that, they're in it, like manage over 1,000 properties and stuff like that. And that's, you know, that's where it starts getting a really serious business. I'm still a kind of minute business. We only manage 300 properties right in Glasgow. So we've only got myself and 3 others. So I employ 3 full-time members of staff. Got my mum still works in the business as well, actually, funnily enough. She's been there since day one. She still does. It's really just to keep her occupied. She likes doing it. Yeah. So I always say 3.5. My mum's the half. Probably the best employee, to be fair. Nah, wouldn't say that. All the other team members are brilliant. Yeah. I've been really lucky. I have gone through a few bumps, that being not the last one that I employed, but the second last one. Unfortunately, you know, I had to get rid of him because he just wasn't performing.
Within the probational period there?
Yeah, so I've like a 3-month probation period in the contract. And I gave him a chance. You know, he just didn't have the motivation there. You know, I'd phone him up in the morning, and he just sounded like he was still just in his bed. Just, I mean, it is a work from home role, right? A remote working. So I don't mind if you're sitting about in your jammies. That's absolutely fine, right? But actually, make me feel like you're switched on when I call you in the morning.
It must be quite a good role from someone. I mean, working around Glasgow, working from home.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Obviously, like, you know, it's not the best paying job, right?
The salaries generally aren't great in lettings,
in lettings and estate agency and whatever in that sector. You know, pay is like, you know, generally kind of living wage at a starting point. But I think that if you're in charge after the probation period, I put people in charge of their own diary, right? So they get a set allocated number of properties. So each member of staff has got 100 properties. It's up to them. They're a portfolio manager for that group of properties. So they're basically managing their own calendar. So they've got a set number of tasks to do. They've got their daily tasks, their weekly tasks, their monthly tasks, and they've got, you know, KPIs, certain targets they need to meet. As long as that work's done, and I can monitor all that from all the systems that we use, I can go and log on at any point in time how long this maintenance issue has taken to resolve. Like, I'm all over it just with this laptop right here, and I can see what they're communicating to the landlords. You know, I can see what they're communicating to the tenants, and as long as that work's getting done, I can give a shit what they're doing at home. You know, I give them that flexibility.
How do you find that control of letting go of that?
That was difficult, right? But, you know, it was hard because ultimately you're paying somebody a wage and you're like, are they just like watching Netflix or something like that? I did have that in my head at the start because, like, obviously you're not seeing how productive they're being because you're not in the room with them. But I'm over that now. I'm cool with that. And
as long as you know that the job's getting done, you really don't care.
They know that. I think they respect me because I trust them as well. I have to trust in that they're doing it. And I think with that guy that I had to get rid of, there was times where I was phoning him and he wasn't answering the phone, and that was a red flag straight away. Whereas all the other three, they'll pick up the phone straight away. So God knows what he was up to. Let's take a quick break, guys, from today's show to talk about selling your property with Prime Property Auctions. Now, myself and Stephen have both used John and Lewis from Prime in the past, and we can personally vouch for their service. They sell vacant and tenanted property, and you get to control the minimum reserve price so that you're not selling your property for peanuts. They pay for all the stuff like photos, videos, and all the marketing stuff up front, so you're not paying anything from the start, and it's a no sale, no fee. So if you want to check out Prime Property Auctions, then get across to the link on the show notes and speak to the guys. But no, it's interesting though. But you know, as much as I like the remote working and staff like it because they get that flexibility, I believe that I'm at the scale now where I'm having to recruit somebody else now straight away. So I've spent the 3 months. I was still at training stage as the operations kind of manager, if you like, of the business. So that new member of staff, I had to train for 3 months. It's quite exhausting. It takes a lot out of you, especially when you're working remotely. So now, and I was just doing a podcast with Jerry Alexander there because he's helping me out with buying a commercial building. I've decided that it's time to get an office premises. Which would be good to grow for the business, and it'll probably help the team camaraderie grow as well, with the staff members being interlinked, bounce off each other, learn off each other. So I do see the benefit now, and what I'll probably do is like a hybrid.
Like a couple of days in office, a couple of days at home or something.
So they can still get that flexibility, and they don't feel like that, you know, they're in and somebody's looking over their shoulder and stuff like that, because I don't want to be that type of boss anyway. But
would you work in the office full time, like your full working hours, or would you be quite flexible in and out?
I hate being in offices.
Yeah, I'm the same as you.
I'll probably be in the Starbucks most of the time, or the David Lloyd's. So like, yeah, I would go in, and I'll be, again, it's like, it's having a good enough relationship, I think, with your team where you can trust them, and maybe they would be more productive without me there. I don't know.
Without you looking over their shoulders. But
it's all work in progress, isn't it?
How was the hunt for the CMO building going then?
So I've set a goal just there. It's September 2024, right? And I need to have something within a year. I know that's
secured.
A year,
or
yeah.
bought and moved into.
I think preferably bought and moved into, but if it's secured, then that's fine as well. But yeah, so I've got quite open about it. I've got funds in there that need to be invested, right? One of the reasons that was holding me back was that there's a lot of boxes to tick. I've got location. I want to be somewhere close. I've got a young family. I need to be there for school trips,
pickups,
drop-offs, all the rest of it. So it needs to work for us as a family. South side of Glasgow, Paisley, Renfrew, wherever, right? It needs to be a nice environment. So it needs to be either something that I can refurb that is a nice space.
Enjoy
for
the space that you want to work in.
I think that's important. You know, and also it's obviously I've got a budget. Do you know what I mean? I've not got an infinite amount of cash, so it has to work numbers wise.
Have you got an idea of what size you want? Like what square
so
meter?
I think really minimum it needs to be about 2,000 square foot.
That's for what you need. Is that for you?
No,
and
that would be for us. I think we only probably need about well at the moment I think we only probably need about I don't know 500 square foot or something like that for a small team.
Yeah.
But obviously then I'm thinking if I get 3 or 4 other spaces I could rent out that sublet as a CMO.
Yeah.
Commercial multiple occupancy. What's it called, Ian?
CMO.
Aye.
Commercial multiple occupancy. Yeah.
Then it works as an investment. And obviously I can get a return out of that as well, because ultimately deep down I'm always going to be an investor and I'm going to want for long-term wealth and build that. So I'm looking...
That's going to be inside the SaaS pension as well?
Preferably, yes, but I'm looking at just buying it through the business too. And then, I don't know...
Can you not loan the business profits and, to claim your corporation tax by putting the overpayments from the business into the...
There's ways of doing it, isn't there? I'm not really going to go into it because I don't really know what I'm talking about when it comes to
we spoke to Mark Stokes back on the podcast a couple of years back, and he kind of says to us that you can claim back 3 years worth of corporation profits. If you've paid corporation tax for 3 years, I'm pretty sure that podcast.
So I'm going to backdate it. There is backdated contributions, so you can get at the moment up to £60,000. You can, as a director of a limited company, you can put that into a SaaS pension, I believe. By the way, listeners, if you're listening to this, always get professional advice on things like pensions, mortgages, and financial advice, because we just obviously pick up bits and pieces, but we're
just learn and grow what we're
ultimately we're getting the professionals' advice. So I've got my SaaS advisor actually reached out to him recently about that. Is going through, the application's been done, it's getting set up. Have you done it in yours?
No, I've got it, it's been approved, it's done. My only problem was my transfer value for my final salary pension. I had to jump through loads of hoops, being under 55 was the key, but because I was under 40 at the time, that was huge. The company that I signed it off had to have huge what was it, like public liability insurance or public indemnity insurance. And had to watch like 26 videos on flipping pensions and then do an exam at the end of each one. So I did that. They were charging heavy fees for it. And then I went to go and pull the trigger on it after doing all that. And the transfer value went down from, what was mine? 205 grand down to, I think it was 100 or 90. What? It dropped when the interest rates went up. Somebody tried to explain to me, a pension expert tried to explain to me, when the interest rates go up, pension values go down. So mine's fucking tanked. So I was like, there's no point in transferring over now. I'll just wait until it's stabled out and then transfer over.
So ultimately you didn't do anything with that. It's just still there.
So the funds there tied up. But definitely it's I think that most people on that last budget last year missed that. Like, remember how there used to be a lifetime allowance or a lifetime maximum allowance before you got taxed on your pension? It was like 1,077,000. They've wavered it and it's now unlimited. So that's a huge thing, that you can grow a SaaS, your own SaaS pension with up to 11 trustees. You can all have unlimited amount of money in it, and that's all tax free. That's a huge benefit, huge incentive. So it's part of a trust, isn't it?
Talking about the government, how are you feeling about Labour getting in and the effect that might have on the Aberdeen
it's making me nervous
energy market, oil and gas, because what was it, the windfall tax that they're bringing in, is it it's about 80%?
It's nuts,
or something like that. It's going to be the highest taxed sector in, I think, the world, like in any economy.
Companies won't go near it. They won't do it, because I know a lot of the guys are still working in the oil and gas industry and they're still busy. And I speak to them, where are you working? And it's like, working in Turkey or Egypt or Mexico. Like, they're not working in the North Sea. So as much as the UK's, the workforce is getting used, It's not in Aberdeen. It's not getting based out in Aberdeen. It's not going to the North Sea. So this might have a huge impact. But then I've always thought that Aberdeen might just bounce back to a normal city's property market and not follow the oil and gas industry. So if it stabilises out and can recover slightly, it'll be good.
And then obviously there's talk. We just did a market update there. There's talk of them putting up the capital gains tax as well. But I think you got rid of. Is that you all short of all your personal name properties now? Yeah,
last one was sold a few months ago, so that was shot.
That's cleared. So
it's actually quite a good feeling.
So you're not exposed to capital gains anymore in terms of property. Yeah. If you do any other investments, obviously you will be.
But I only do my stocks and shares as personally up to the 20,000 a year as well. So I'm not limited to anything personally now. I think it's obviously the government's trying to do away with anyone having wealth in their own name or own personal.
I can't remember what the phrase was that the new Prime Minister Keir Starmer used, but it's those that have the broadest shoulders will bear the biggest burden or will take the heaviest weight or something like that. So basically what they're saying is anybody that's got a bit of money, you're just going to need to pay a bit extra, which is fair enough.
But at what point does that? I mean, okay, we're talking about Aberdeen now, but at what point do you push people out of the country? Like we've had a lot of guests on the podcast recently that are either moving out to Dubai or they're living out in Dubai, and they're just saying, "Fuck this, done with this country, done with the taxation, done with everything," and they're bailing out. At what point, like the oil and gas industry is not going to come and develop fields out in the North Sea? How much effect does that have on jobs throughout the whole of the UK, not just in Aberdeen? But there's a huge sector, and then we start to pay for our energy costs, and other countries are we're at the mercy of other countries to pay for our energy. Like
especially when their whole thing is they want to grow the economy. Do you know what I mean? And obviously attract investment. But if you're putting up capital gains tax up to 45%, they're talking about aligning it with income tax levels. That's not really going to attract investment. In fact, it's going to say to people, I'm not going near that. Do you know what I mean? So it's, who knows how that's going to pan out. Then obviously they've got the big house building goals as well, 1.5 million houses over the next 5 years. I think they're...
Again, what private company is going to want to come in and invest money in the UK to help them reach not even to help them reach it. That's the only way they're going to be able to reach them. They're not going to build them themselves. So,
my thing with it, this whole building the houses is, right, they're obviously going to need help from the house builders, right? But house builders don't want to flood the market, do they? Taylor Wimpey, Miller Homes, they don't want to go and build 1.5 million houses over 5 years because ultimately their profits are going to tank. Because they're flooding the market with supply. It's all supply and demand, and they want to keep the supply tight so that it props up the prices
are there all the time.
Keeps up their profit margins, So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out, to see how they will collaborate with house building companies, and then obviously, the government legislation with private landlords is obviously just work in progress with the new housing bill. So don't know how that will. Let's keep the market update stuff to the market update. Let's just concentrate more on our what we're doing, because we were going off on a bit of a rant there.
Like it, mate. So what else has been happening in the letting agency? Any issues?
Mate, honestly, I feel like I just come into work every day and I get another punch in the face. Do you know what I mean? It's constant problems.
I mean, I suppose that's the nature of the beast, isn't it? Like you're taking the onus away from the investors or the landlords, and you're taking
it's constant problems. But
what kind of problems? Is it maintenance? Is it tenants?
For example, right, one of my own flats, I was telling you earlier on, but it needed a bathroom renovation. There was a leak over a long period of time. It rotted the joists, it rotted the floor. It's chipboard flooring, so basically the flooring just collapsed, right? The bathroom, it's an ensuite bathroom, modern property. It's probably 20 years old though, so I was like, I'll just do a full bathroom refurb.
It's time to do it,
I've done loads of bathroom refurbs in the past. Doesn't faze me. I'm getting in and out within a week. Tenant's still got the other bathroom to use. Just tenant doesn't need to move out. Just shut the door and it'll be done. So anyway, I was like, looking about, a couple of contacts that I'd used previously. Oh no, we're too tied up for a couple of weeks and all that. And I was like, I can't leave this tenant just hanging. I just want to get it in and out quickly. So tried Rated People. I think it was Rated People, one of these websites. Found a guy, good reviews, 5-star reviews. Met the guy, seemed nice enough, got on all right with him, and started him off on the job. Sort of 2 days into the job, the tenant phones me up and she's like, Nick, there's water coming out one of the pipes. Turned out he'd stripped everything back, right? Stripped out the old bathroom, left the soil pipe open, but hadn't like plugged it up or tilted the U-bend up or anything like that. So like basically it's a ground floor flat. Every time all the upstairs neighbour flushed the toilet, the shite and the fucking pish was just pissing out onto the floor. So that was the first issue. And then he sent me a video of his progress. And bear in mind, he's putting in new joists, putting in a full new subfloor. He's resheeting all the walls. And he sent me a video update. And he'd used like some old bits of plasterboard to like patch in. So like, you know how you get the green stuff, the moisture resistant stuff. And then he's got like this other bits that look like a jigsaw puzzle, basically.
Was it getting plastered or getting wet wall or anything like that?
Aye, so it was getting wet wall, but still, it was like, why are you using little bits and pieces when it would be just easier just to stick on full sheets? Yeah. Alarm bell number 2. He's like, oh, there was nothing wrong with that old bit of plasterboard. He says, and the price of plasterboard these days, I've just tried to save a bit of money. It's like, right, okay.
£12 for a sheet.
Aye, exactly. And then that's another alarm bell. And then like I put it on my Insta stories, and I got about honestly 20 DMs saying that is just cowboy stuff. So I was like, oh no, this is not going well, right? So anyway, we were supposed to come back yesterday morning and start back on the job. I says, look, there's a couple of things I need to discuss with you. I brought up all the issues, and it's like, oh, sort it all out. And he was supposed to come back yesterday, phoned in, I'm not going to turn up today, I'm feeling a bit sick. I was like, no, this is just no going anywhere. So I phoned him up last night and I was like, look, enough's enough. I'm really sorry, but your work's not up to scratch. I'm not happy with the way you've been dragging out the job. The tenant's in a position where we want to get it turned around quickly. I said, unfortunately, I want you to go and pick up your tools in the morning and walk off the job. Now, bear in mind, I've already paid him £600 at the start, which is a big no-no, really. You shouldn't be paying money up front unless it's...
some materials he needs to get or something in there.
Some materials, okay. So I felt sorry for him because he was like, I need money for materials and all the rest of it. So I gave him £600.
Another red flag.
He's done, another red flag. He's only done 2 days' work, right? And he's probably spent £100 on materials. So, and then he starts throwing the toys out the pram last night, abusive texts, like he says, I'm going to go round there and rip it all down and all that. Right enough, he went round this morning, the tenant phones me. He's there, 8 a.m. with his pal, and they're taking down all the gyprock, lifting up all the floors and all that. And I'm like, this is unreal. I says to the tenant, do you want me to come round? She's like, no, I've told him he needs... The tenant's pretty good. She's quite strong. So she was like, I've told him he needs to be out in 10 minutes, otherwise I'm calling the police.
Jesus.
So that hurried them up. Ultimately, I didn't have to go round. But I'm going to be worse off because...
You've paid him £600, then you've got to go and find something now that's going to
so that's just another problem. But you know, another alarm bell would have been when he turned up to the job and he was telling me about his social media marketing company that he also had alongside his bathroom business, that he'd renovated 200 bathrooms over the last couple of years. So just another day in the life,
another lesson learned.
It was one of my properties, so I don't feel bad for my landlord clients because it wasn't one of their.
It's a shame that your tenant's got to deal with it. That's a bit of a pain, but that's good. At least you've got a decent tenant that's understanding of what's going on.
Yeah, but this guy got proper arsey, like got Jesus. Really.
So is that what a lot of the issues that are coming up day to day is maintenance?
Trades. I mean, like all sorts, like rats, slugs. Slugs are a big one at the moment. Right. Slugs coming in from outside through no apparent gaps. Like we can't find the gaps anywhere, and then the tenants are taking pictures of these wee slugs just coming through.
Why an issue?
The kitchen and all that. I don't know. Tenants are freaking out because they get slugs in their kitchen. Would you not be?
No, fucking seat them up and launch them out. Jeez.
Always got issues with about roofing leaks and stuff like that.
I can't even let a couple of properties because of flipping leaks are that bad.
Roofing is a real problem. It's one of those ones you think you've got to the bottom of, and then you get another torrential downpour, and then it comes in some other wee gap, depending on the way the wind's blowing and all the rest of it. But oh god, you start me off in a rant now, mate. So we're probably about half an hour in, so we should probably start wrapping it up.
What other kind of issues? Any issues with tenants? Or what's the market looking like with the stuff you've been renting out? Everything okay?
Definitely things have calmed down. We were doing this in the market update as well. So like last year, 2023 summer, that was like when things were just going off the scale in terms of demand. We're definitely finding a calming of the market now.
Which you always said would happen.
Well, it's a correction.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is it's a correction.
I just went...
Rents going up 15% year on year could not sustain. So maybe we're now down at about, maybe in some areas rents are still going up, but in Glasgow actually the data suggests that rents are going down. So it's a correction. So even if it corrects 5%, we're still going to be up 10%.
But you know the media and the politicians are going to use the high level data and say, oh, rents are going up 30%.
Yeah.
When in reality, like you're saying, they're probably dropped back down. So really it was just a peak with the way the demand was at that time, but they've actually leveled back out there.
There's still a shortage, don't get me wrong, because we're still able to, put a property up if it's correctly priced and probably have, if it's at the correct price, we'll probably still get 4 or 5 people applying for it. So there's always going to be a shortage for a long time.
Yeah.
We're finding that there's loads of foreign applicants. Like I would say probably 75 to 80% of our applicants are foreign immigrants.
Yeah.
Indian, Nigerians coming over here, skilled labour, skilled jobs, earning good salaries. Yeah, good tenants as well.
Are they going to be long-term tenants or short-term until they get enough money together to buy their own place? Or?
It really just depends. Some of them do move about for different contracts and works and stuff like that. But I would say the majority of people that we talk to are looking to stay in the UK long-term. So I think they get like a 5-year working visa initially, and I think then after that, if everyone checks out, I think they get... their status can change to getting UK residency.
Oh, that's good.
So I feel like that's a big trend.
Nice. And how's networking events been going? Still been loving the Glasgow one?
Aye, so networking, we usually get about 50 to 60 people in the room. We've got actually one tomorrow night, which will be good, talking about eco efficiencies in properties, how you can navigate all these EPC changes, minimum standards, and obviously grants as well. So that's what about you? You getting round any of them?
I've been up in Dundee the last couple of months, now filling in for Keza Salimi because he's stepping down as a host on Dundee.
You know that I'm a lazy bastard and I don't go.
He's been fantastic, Kezza, for it. He's been there since the start.
Big thank you to Kezza.
Yeah, absolutely, Kezza. Thank you very much. So he stepped down, so I've stepped up to help out Neil for a couple of months until we find someone else that can step into it. Because I like floating about around hosting them.
And I'm just a lazy bastard.
I love going to them.
I don't get past.
But Dundee's got fantastic guests lined up. Like last month they had John Blackwood from Salon.
Yeah.
So I'd contacted him about coming on the podcast and couldn't tie his diary in to suit today's date. But he's keen to come on board, and tomorrow they've got a developer, Lee Conley, who does fantastic new build development. So he doesn't like public speaking, so we're going to get to interview him on stage, and the audience can ask questions, stuff like that. So that'd be quite cool. But they've got really good guests, so it's quite, and they've got them lined up well in advance as well, unlike you in Glasgow.
Yeah.
You and Gillian slacking just as a chases for your guests.
We should probably finish up by saying a huge thank you to listeners. As always, a big thanks for all the support. Podcast numbers are continuing to grow.
Yeah, the events are well attended, and it's good to get around the events as well. Like I was up in Aberdeen a few months ago, and the guys in Edinburgh doing a good job. Up in Aberdeen are doing a good job. So it's nice to go to these events and speak to people and see if they're enjoying them, and get feedback as well. If there's anything we can improve on them, or anything we can put in place, or any speakers that they'd like to see.
We'll try to break the 3,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, please just hit that bell. No, is it the bell?
I
think it is.
Fingers up.
No, the bell's for notifications. I think there's a subscribe button as well.
Yes, please do. Any reviews you can give us as well. That's really important.
I like reading the reviews.
We should read the reviews out on the market updates as well. It gives people a wee shout out.
I don't think we've had any bad ones, to be fair. I think they're all been pretty.
I was mentioned earlier on as well to you that I was coming off the flight coming back yesterday, changing at Dublin to come over from Los Angeles to Dublin to Edinburgh, and some guy just randomly come up to me and was like, and introduced himself. So a big shout out to Dan. He says that he'd been listening to the podcast for a couple of years, and he's got a project up in Oban that he's doing at the moment. So it was quite cool to see people just randomly come up to you in their travels and introduce themselves and say they're listening to the podcast. So that was quite cool.
I was at a similar story there. Not that we're trying to make ourselves look like we're some sort of fucking celebrities or something like that. Do you know what I mean? We've no got, we do have egos, but not that bad.
No, they're not that bad. Yeah.
But I was in a cafe up in Balmaha, Loch Lomond, ordering a couple of coffees. We're up there for a wee family day out at the weekend, and a young guy came up to me and says, I just want to say thanks very much for doing the podcast. I've learnt loads, really love listening to it. It was just because he heard the voice. He says, I heard your voice and I recognised it straight away.
2 cappuccinos please, Hen.
Exactly.
That's Nick Ponty.
So that was that, and then another time at the gym as well, another young guy. It seems to be a lot of young guys listening.
Do you know
to
what?
it.
I like it. Like I always feel very uncomfortable when someone approaches you and speaks to you. Like, I always feel like fucking hell, like, but like quite But it does give you a bit of a boost that you're showing up and doing the recordings, bringing in the guests, and what to be putting.
So
it's
that's
good
three.
that
At least that's 3 people.
Yeah, people listening to it.
Listening to the podcast.
So it is good. It gives you a bit of a sense of achievement that people are getting some good value from it, and yeah.
Right, all good, right? That's us talk shite for 40 minutes, so we can go now.
Wow.
So
there you go, guys. You got a general update from Nick and Stephen, and hope it wasn't too boring for you. But we didn't do a Joe Rogan 3-hour podcast.
No, we probably could talk for 3 hours, to be fair.
Yeah,
But
then we would lose listeners.
all good. Thanks for the catch up.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks for listening, guys, and thanks for the support.
Cheers.